Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Today is a bit of a transition day for me as I am getting ready to head to the range to see how my new CC9 shoots and see if it can or will replace my standard everyday carry Sig P365. This is the XL version. And so before I head to the range, and I will post some follow-up video as a fast follow to this, shooting them side by side. But before I head to the range, I thought I'd take a look at them side by side. If you're on the fence about one or the other, or you're curious how they compare, because they serve the same customer, they're very similar, hopefully this video will help you out. If you've watched the channel before, A, thank you for coming back, but two, you'll also know that I'm a massive Sig fan and also a very massive H&K fan. And until this time, the Sig has been my pretty much standard everyday carry. I do have a P30SK that I carry sometimes, but it's a little bit wider than the 365. And the 365 is just so easy to pick up and grab and carry because it is so thin and so easy to handle. And it pretty much is what I carry every single day. Haven't had an option like this that I wanted until H&K just introduced the new CC9, which has been pretty elusive. So a quick side-by-side looking at them. This CC9 comes in one size, and it's kind of a happy medium of all the 365s, in my humble opinion. The 365 series started with just the 365, which had a slightly shorter grip. They held 10 rounds instead of 12, and it had a slightly shorter barrel, or slide rather. Then they introduced the 365X, which had a shorter barrel and a longer slide that held 12. And then I chose the more recent 365XL, which has the longer grip, holding 12, and longer slide for longer sight radius. That one just felt the best in my hands. It was easy to carry, go to it all the time. The H&K is probably closest to the 365X. You can see it's not quite as long as the XL, but it does have a somewhat similar grip angle where the Sig holds 12 here and the original 360 holds 10. The H&K holds 10 with a slightly shorter grip, but it does come with an extended magazine that does hold 12. We'll look at those in just a second. So they're quite similar in size, dimensions, and capacities. The big thing they have in common that sets them apart from most everything other than the Springfield Hellcat and the Smith & Wesson, I think, Bodyguard, is how thin they are. They're right about 1 inch thick, which makes them really easy to conceal, and they feel great in your hands. I think the H&K may be just a micro measurement thinner than the H&K, or than the Sig rather, but they feel identical in my hands. And that, again, thinness makes them super easy to conceal. A lot of things very similar. They both have sort of blacked out rears in the back with good optics in the front. They're both optics ready. My older 365 series here has the old optics plate that when you remove it, you lose the rear sight. The Sig does not have that, or the H&K rather does not have that. You keep the rear sight when you install the optic. And I probably will try an optic on here soon. I want to shoot it first with the irons to see how I like it. Would love your thoughts. What optics are you guys running on your CC9s? Again, very similar in size. The Sig is slightly longer, both with front and rear cocking serrations. Both with the sight picture we talked about. One big thing you'll notice about the Sig for me is that I do choose to carry it with a manual safety. If I'm going to carry it with one in the chamber pointing at my junk, I do really appreciate having just an extra measure there. It won't go off, I know, but being a hammer fired fan, I'm used to having my thumb on a hammer when I holster it. So I just like the added safety of that. The H&K does not come with a safety option. I think I know safeties are very personal. People have different opinions, but it does have the safety dingus on there that won't activate the trigger unless you have your finger fully on there. So that is a safety measure. I don't know if it's as effective as the manual safety, but it's super intuitive. And I've heard that people in stressful situations may forget to sweep down. Again, shouldn't go down that rabbit hole. If you look at the kind of the grips on here, the Sig has pretty much the same grip texture all the way around. And with a slight finger groove here, that the first finger can go in here and both fingers go around. A bit of a finger groove, not super pronounced, but there is some curving there. The H&K has a bit more of a pronounced finger groove, and the grip isn't quite as long. I can get 3 fingers on there, but this guy is definitely a dangler. So this is, again, the 10-round magazine that I probably will not carry because I prefer the extended 12 round, then allows me to get a full grip on here. So this is probably how I will carry it. The one thing I'm anxious when I shoot today is to see how this gap works here, because on both my P30 SK and a friend's VP9 SK that I carried, they had a extended magazine grip here, and this would pinch your finger every time you shot it. So hoping that doesn't happen. I know that H&K has done tons of testing on this guy, so hopefully that is not an issue, but something I am going to be watching for. So in this configuration, they both hold 12. Another big difference is that the Sig has a very nice grip, and these are both modular, by the way. They both the fire control units can come out and go into other chassis, but the Sig, you have one size chassis for the most part. On the H&K, you have two back straps, a small and a medium. A medium and a large, I think. So I have the larger back strap with a bit more of a curve back here installed, just to help with my placement on the trigger finger here. Now, again, this guy is slightly longer, but if I stack them on top of each other, I think it's very interesting. Hopefully this will come across on video, that if I line them up back to back, so again, now they're exactly lined up. Obviously, you can see that the H&K isn't quite as long as the XL as expected. But the thing I really noticed was the trigger placement. Look how far forward the H&K trigger is versus the Sig trigger. Here's the Sig trigger back here versus the H&K. And I think that's very interesting, because as you think about where your finger placement should be, you see that my finger barely extends beyond the trigger guard there, and I can get my finger pretty easily here. Not a ton wrap around, but it goes there. On the Sig, my finger goes much further forward, and it has a much bigger wraparound, which means I can be more prone to hooking it. So I do like the fact I could adjust the back strap on this guy a bit to make the trigger finger placement maybe a little better. Now, one thing I do love about the H&K that the Sig doesn't offer, the Sig is pretty much for right-handers only, except for the safety. Your slide catch is over here. Your mag release is over here. It may be reversible. I've not done that because my wife is right-handed and shoots this way. The H&K is 100% ambi. Being a lefty, I appreciate that. You have the slide catch here and there. So I have both, but most importantly, the mag release is here and here. True H&K fans are already mad because it doesn't have the paddle system, which I do love, but I am actually really happy that it does have the ambi mag release on there. And these things do just shoot out of there like crazy. And when I'm talking magazines, I think it's very interesting. I'll show you guys clear on both of these, by the way. This is Sig's standard 12-round magazine. This is H&K's 10-round magazine. They pretty much look identical to me, but Sig has figured out the voodoo witchcraft magic of how to get 12 rounds versus 10 rounds in here. H&K has gone to this extended pinky or extended base plate for 12 rounders, and you can see that it's slightly taller than the Sig. So very interesting that H&K's mags versus Sig's mags. I think the magic Sig figured out is how to get 12 rounds in this small little magazine here. Now, also look at weight really quick. Again, the Sig is slightly larger, so I would think it would weigh slightly more. Does that zero this out? Put the Sig on here, and it weighs 1 pound, 2.2 ounces. 122. I'll put the H&K on, 122 over there. This is actually 124. So even though the gun is slightly smaller, it weighs a little bit more. I would say it's some of that crap magic they have installed in there, but this gun is actually made in Georgia, and this gun's made in New Hampshire, so both USA made. The last thing I'll look at is the trigger, where the Sig has a flat trigger here, no safety dingus, because you have the safety there. And H&K has the, again, bladed trigger system here. So you have a little bit of take-up, and then trigger brakes on the H&K, and your reset is audible, tactile, small bit of take-up, and it goes again. So we'll see how I shoot it, but it feels, I guess, kind of like my VP9 trigger. It feels good. The Sig trigger and take-up, and you don't There's not much creep. You hit the wall and it breaks right at 90 degrees. You can see there. Then reset on the Sig. Audible, tactile, no take up. Back at the wall. So, you know, the Sig trigger feels, to me, first impressions, a little better than the H&K trigger. So, both very easy to carry, both my favorite manufacturers. Love that this is ambi. This trigger initially feels a little better to me. We'll see how they do at the range. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching. My first impression side by side of my two different carry guns. And I'll probably carry the one my wife doesn't steal, quite honestly. I'll let you know how that goes as well. But again, thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your feedback on both or either of these firearms. Thanks.